All right, welcome back to The Jump. We're exactly 1 month away from the trade deadline. So I want to take this opportunity to identify the spiciest buyers and sellers heading into the deadline. Brian, which team most interests you as a potential buyer prior to the February 6th deadline?
Well, this is going to be a bit of a surprise, but it's really developed in the last 10 days or so. The Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks, from an ownership level downward, want to improve their roster this year. They realize they're not going to be a playoff team. They have extra draft picks, and they are out there offering them around. Not only that, they have 3 big expiring contracts, Chandler Parsons, Alan Crabb, and Evan Turner, that they can use. They have the guts and the desire to make a deal. And I realize that it's not going to change the balance of power in the league, but look for the Hawks to do something noteworthy. Woj connected them to Andre Drummond. If it's not Andre Drummond, it could be somebody else.
Yeah, I like that one, and I every time we talk about the Hawks in this light, I always like to point out this is what it means when you actually go for it. When you're trying to develop a culture of winning, they had much higher expectations this season than what's played out so far.
They've been the worst team in the league.
Yeah, and most teams would tank. Most franchises would say let's just embrace the tank at this point. The Hawks go the other direction, and I
also think that Trae Young wants to see. Well, he wants some help.
Yeah.
And when he comes off the floor. Yeah. The Hawks go right like this.
Yeah.
And no matter what they want to frame it, it's been a very disappointing season.
Yep.
And at the ownership level, they want to see improvement. That's the key.
Ramona, who do you have?
Well, I think the Denver Nuggets are an interesting team because they have the type of contracts that you can move. You have young players that could be included in trades and that teams are interested in. And they also have a team that has gone into a couple of funks this year. Like they have to decide that this is a team that has championship aspirations. They invested heavily in their core players, and do they feel like they need more, or has Michael Porter Jr. shown them enough so far to where they say maybe he's our upgrade and we keep this group together?
They play tonight, Hawks and Nuggets.
Yeah. I think that Michael Porter Jr. has clearly shown some flashes. Defensively, he's still a little bit of a mess. Offensively, he's unbelievable, I think, at times. But I think he's still learning, and I don't know how many minutes he's going to get consistently.
I don't think Mike Malone, it's very clear, Mike Malone doesn't trust him yet.
Right.
And I don't know if that trust is going to happen by the playoffs.
Yeah. I've got the Heat, because I think the Heat are going to be a fascinating experiment because they're good in the Eastern Conference, but not great. And I think that they look at the East and say, maybe if we got the right player, we could really make some noise in the Eastern Conference playoffs. The problem with them is they want to also keep maximum cap space for the summer of 21. So it's going to be an interesting dance, I think, for them. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard because you can't tie up money. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to connect dots with them and say, hey, Kevin Love would really help them. But he makes too much money in a year where they want to keep their money. So I think the Heat is an interesting idea, but it's hard for them to maneuver. And they've really hit on some young players where they didn't have to do much. They got guys out of the G League who are playing consistent minutes. And I don't know who you can find to take Dion Waiters or James Jones.
I think they're the most dangerous team going forward to make a deal. Maybe not this season. Players want to be in Miami, and then you're back. Watch out.
Yeah. The Drew Holiday thing is interesting with him because he has an opt-out in the summer of 21, and maybe he does opt out. It's not like a center, right, with Andre Drummond, we were discussing earlier. A guard is probably still going to get money, so that's something I think to look out on. All right, let's switch over to the other side here. Ramona, which team interests you the most as a potential seller for the deadline?
Well, I think Oklahoma City Thunder is going to be at the center of a lot of conversations because they've exceeded expectations this year, and they have a couple of players who a lot of teams would be interested in. Now, so their phones are going to be ringing on Steven Adams, on Gallinari, on Dennis Schroeder. But the big question is, do they trade Chris Paul? He has been great for them. He has gone into a situation that a lot of people were not, didn't know if he would embrace it. They didn't know how well he would play in the spot. He's been great for them, and he's the kind of point guard that if you're a team like Philadelphia, if you're a team like Denver, if you're a team that thinks you're one player away, do you start to look at that money and say, ooh, can we really take that? Can we really do that? Because Chris Paul this year so far is playing and looking like a guy who can help a contender.
He looks like Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. Brian?
I agree, because I think that the Thunder are, if they are willing to sell, they have the most interesting pieces that can change teams. But what if they don't? What if they pivot?
I know.
And they buy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They have the assets for that, too.
Certainly do.
That's why they're interesting, because if their pieces come into the market, then that affects the market. But if they pivot, I think they control a big part of the market.
So, what are they buying for though? Like the next core of the Thunder is not
buying for this
not
season.
There. They're buying for the season to be what, the 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, maybe win a playoff series?
Because it's not yet time to tank, especially since I don't think Chris Paul is going anywhere anyway.
Right.
You might as well take advantage of what he can bring to you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you're making a major investment, but why not make a minor investment and lock down your playoff position?
Quickly, I have Portland. I think we've been talking about blowing them up for a long time, and this year seems to maybe be the right opportunity. I mean, do you go in and try to get the 8th spot, or do you just let things kind of unfold and maybe get a lottery pick and move forward from there?
I think Portland has to really lock in and wait until Nurkic comes back. Then
figure it out. Right. Okay, fair enough.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For highlights and analysis, check out the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, check out ESPN+.